Electronics Arts is preparing for a $55 billion takeover, and employment appears to be the first feature getting removed. Sale approval is still not complete. Layoffs are. Before anyone calls this routine restructuring, look at who was reportedly hit: recruitment, customer support, trust and safety, and information technology. Those are the people you notice when an account gets stolen, a purchase disappears, a ban goes wrong, or a system breaks. Today we are following the money to see who gets protected, who gets removed, and why players should care. First, here is the timeline because the order matters. Last September, EA announced an agreement to be acquired by a group led by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, alongside Silver Lake and Affinity Partners. Regulators are still reviewing that transaction, so the buyers do not officially control EA yet. While that ownership transfer remains unfinished, another group of EA workers has lost jobs. Reports describe this as at least the company's third layoff round during 2026. However, EA has not disclosed how many people were affected in the newest round. Reported cuts appear to include remote workers in the United States and employees in Hyderabad, India. Several Hyderabad employees had reportedly spent more than 10 years at EA before receiving the news. Decade-long service apparently buys less security than 1/4 of improved efficiency. Behind every reduction sits a person whose rent, family plans, and future do not vanish inside a polished statement, and that human cost matters because corporate language turns a household crisis into a neutral line about operational alignment. Nobody should claim thousands were fired because no confirmed total exists. EA discussed the affected functions but not the headcount. Apparently, the company can track every Ultimate Team coin, player login, purchase, and engagement curve. Somehow, counting dismissed employees remains premium technology locked behind a future update. Hiding the number is bad enough, but EA's explanation makes the story harder to defend. According to the company, these changes are part of changing operations and responding to shifting fan needs. Certain jobs may move somewhere cheaper, get handed to contractors, or disappear during another reorganization. Corporate language makes the work sound as if it floated away by itself. Human language says somebody lost an income while management praised flexibility. Which fans ask for fewer support workers when their accounts stop working? Who demanded fewer people handling fraud, abuse, cheating, and safety problems? Perhaps the community secretly voted for slower replies and more automated messages. Instead, the statement talks about changing fan needs. Your position apparently evolves into somebody else's job somewhere cheaper. Consider now the first real question: does EA look like a company cutting workers because it is desperate to survive? Financially, the answer is not simple, but it is also not flattering. During its latest fiscal year, EA reported about $7.53 billion in net revenue. Revenue rose slightly from the year before. Operating cash flow reached roughly $2.55 billion. Importantly, revenue is not profit, and every incoming dollar cannot be treated like spare cash. Net income also fell compared with the previous year. Even so, this is not a dying corner shop searching office furniture for loose change. Electronic Arts owns major sports franchises, live service games, global studios, and a huge digital business. Calling every layoff necessary for survival would require evidence the company has not provided. Defenders will say large companies restructure constantly, and they are right. Strong revenue does not guarantee permanent employment. Trouble is that EA has not publicly explained why these reductions were necessary while investors receive a premium and leadership expects continuity. Viewed fairly, healthy revenue does not make every job untouchable, but it weakens the claim that management had no alternatives. Better wording is simple: executives chose to remove these roles inside a large, profitable, cash-generating publisher. Money exists, management simply has preferred destinations for it. Employees leave through the discount section. Next comes the second question: who is buying EA, and how are they paying for it? Valued at roughly $55 billion, the proposed transaction would rank among gaming's largest corporate takeovers. Buyers plan to use around $36 billion in equity and $20 billion in committed debt financing. About $18 billion of that debt is expected to be funded when the deal closes. Show EA's own announcement on screen here, because the $20 billion number comes from the company, not an angry Reddit thread. Equity means money supplied or rolled over by the buyers. Debt means borrowed money that must be serviced. Leveraged buyouts use substantial borrowing to purchase companies, then depend on future cash generation to carry the pressure. No public evidence proves these layoffs were ordered to repay that debt. Claiming a direct connection would turn a strong argument into speculation. Nevertheless, Heavy borrowing creates an obvious incentive to protect cash, control costs, and satisfy lenders. Arithmetic alone explains why the financing deserves attention. Effectively, buyers choose the mansion, arrange the mortgage, and expect everyone already inside to respect the payment schedule. Lenders care whether the numbers continue working. Ownership is the next detail that often gets watered down. Members of the buying group include the Public Investment Fund, Silver Lake, and Affinity Partners. Technically, describing the acquisition as Saudi-backed is correct. Saying only that is also incomplete. A filing submitted to regulators in Brazil indicated that the Public Investment Fund could own roughly 93% after completion. Control at that level matters because the largest owner carries far more influence than the smaller names sharing the announcement. Therefore, 3 buyers appear on the purchase screen, but one of them is holding almost the entire controller. Notably, the takeover remains proposed rather than completed. European approval and other regulatory steps are still required. Accuracy matters because a pending acquisition is not a finished sale. Strip away the corporate vocabulary before moving on. Clearly, EA is not bankrupt. The deal includes $20 billion in committed debt, shareholders receive a premium, leadership remains, and workers are disappearing before closing. Now ask the question nobody in the press release wants to answer: who carries the pressure afterward? Observe now the real imbalance. Workers face immediate losses while shareholders and leadership receive defined protection. Meanwhile, shareholders already know the happy number waiting for them if the transaction succeeds. Each eligible share is promised $210 in cash. Pricing represented a 25% premium over EA's unaffected share price when the agreement was announced. Andrew Wilson is expected to remain chief executive after the takeover. Additionally, EA has said its headquarters will remain in Redwood City. Investors get a defined cash price. Senior leadership gets continuity. Workers get another calendar invitation about restructuring. Notice the imbalance. Certainty has a cash value at the top, while uncertainty becomes a management strategy everywhere below. Do not invent personal bonuses for every executive, because criticism does not need fake details. Confirmed facts already provide enough material. Stockholders unlock the premium ending. Staff discover their save file was corrupted. Beyond the sale, executive compensation explains why efficiency speeches often sound like comedy. Official filings reported that Wilson received about $30.5 million in total compensation for fiscal year 2025. Compared with the company's median employee, that was roughly 260 times greater. Display the filing on screen here, because this number should be shown, not merely shouted. Most of Wilson's package came through stock awards rather than ordinary salary, clarifying that difference matters. Likewise, no evidence shows Wilson personally selected every worker affected by this round. Properly aimed, the criticism belongs on the incentive system. Top executives can receive enormous rewards while payroll below them keeps shrinking. Efficiency searches somehow begin near customer support, recruiters, developers, and technical staff. Rarely do they begin in the executive parking area. Unfortunately, EA's cost-cutting software has one confirmed bug. Conveniently, it cannot detect the top floor. This is where the story leaves the boardroom and reaches your account. Imagine spending hundreds of dollars on Ultimate Team, losing access, and discovering that the team handling your case has fewer people and a larger queue, especially when customers have already paid for products, currencies, subscriptions, and access tied to the affected account. Fewer customer support workers could mean longer waits when payments, subscriptions, bans, or missing content require human help. Reduced trust and safety staffing could mean slower action against cheaters, scammers, abusive accounts, and fraud. Smaller information technology teams could create strain across systems that employees and customers rely on every day. Outsiders cannot guarantee those outcomes. Contractors or automation may replace some capacity, but EA has not publicly shown how service levels will be protected. What we can say is that fewer people rarely increase service capacity by themselves. Online comments are deeply cynical, yet comments remain opinion rather than proof. Understandably, the reaction makes sense because this newest round fits a longer pattern. Back in 2024, EA announced cuts affecting around 670 positions. Another company-wide reduction in 2025 affected about 300 people, including roughly 100 at Respawn. Cliffhanger Games later closed after EA cancelled its Black Panther project. Earlier this year, workers connected to Skate and several Battlefield studios were also affected. Different teams, different years, same corporate answer, another restructuring. Current reports describe the newest action as at least EA's third round during 2026. Patterns matter because repeated restructuring stops looking temporary. Madden gets a new edition every year. Predictably, the layoff department wanted the same release calendar. Success does not guarantee safety either. Teams attached to major franchises can still face cuts after strong launches or years of service. Shipping games, supporting customers, or staying loyal for a decade does not buy protection from the next efficiency review. Repeatedly removing staff may improve short-term costs, but it can also erase experience and knowledge that take years to rebuild, while experienced workers take years of internal knowledge out the door. Experience disappears during layoffs, then returns as delays, mistakes, contractor bills, and expensive rebuilding. Finally, here is the verdict. Nothing here proves EA's games will become worse. Evidence does show that workers carry immediate risk while investors receive defined rewards. Acquisition approval remains unfinished. Job losses are real. Shareholders know their price. Leadership knows who is expected to remain in charge. Affected workers already know what EA means by evolution. Employment was the first feature removed. Customers may have their wallets open next. Maybe fewer employees and $20 billion in committed debt will somehow produce better games, stronger support, and gentler monetization. Hope, however, is not evidence. Until EA proves otherwise, the only guaranteed upgrade belongs to the buyers. So when the company eventually looks for more cash, where do you honestly think it will look first, the executive floor or your wallet?